My name is Kayla Gibstard, and I'm doing homelessness in Omaha. So my introduction, the reason I chose to do homelessness is I've always had a passion to help others, and I like to make a difference. I know the number of homeless individuals is increasing. Um, Through my research, I've learned that there's an estimated 2,365 people homeless on any given day in Nebraska, according to the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness. And so seeing this makes me realize that a change needs to happen due to the number just keeps increasing. A personal connection I have is I've always tried to make a difference in others' lives, and I've volunteered multiple times at a homeless shelter. When I see people standing on the median, I try and give them socks or anything that can be the most helpful to them. So my first effective communicator experience is I had a patient who thought she was experiencing tachycardia when she really wasn't. She was super anxious and worked up, and I tried to provide education to her during this time, and I realized that my teaching was ineffective because she just wasn't understanding what I was saying because she thought what she was saying is right because that's how it had been in the past. So she didn't really understand exactly what I was saying. So from this experience, I learned that I need to interpret my patient's nonverbal signs and learn when to educate a patient. Since she was so worked up and nervous about her heart rate, my teaching wasn't effective. And so I learned that I need to wait until they're calm and not as anxious, and then I can educate them about what tachycardia is. So tying it back to homelessness, 11.2% of the people in Nebraska don't speak English as their first language. And so I can use the signs and the techniques that I learned from this experience to realize I need to interpret nonverbal signs and when talking to someone who is homeless because they can be nervous about what I'm going to say and become anxious. And then I also need to remember that if I'm going to educate a patient whose primary language is not English, that I need to communicate the education in their primary language using whatever I can to best do that. So my effective communicator number 2 experience is I had a resident that felt like her family dumped her at the nursing home. So she got transferred in from the hospital, and she did not want to be there. She did not like that we were asking her all these questions. So she just kind of shut down. So I took a second and I realized that one of us needs to go in there and talk to her and just realize what's going on. So I went in there and I talked to her, and she told me that she feels like her family dumped her, that they don't want to deal with her. So we just came up with a solution that we would call them and talk to them, and that seemed to help her calm down and realize that her family was just trying to do what's best for her. So through this experience, I learned how to critically think quickly because I had to come up with a solution to help her feel more welcome to the hall. And I also realized the importance of having a conversation with somebody. Had I not sat down and conversed with her, we never would have known what was making her feel like her family dumped her. So she was very appreciative that I took that time. So I can tie it back to homelessness by realizing that I need to have a conversation with them about what caused them to be homeless and investigate more so I can provide them the best resources so that way they can get out of the cycle and get back to living a normal life. So according to the National Law Center on Homelessness and Poverty, the most common causes of homelessness include lack of affordable housing, unemployment, mental illness, substance abuse, and poverty. So my first reflective individual is freshman year I had to write a paper over the care that LGBTQ patients receive. And before writing this paper, I did not know the level of care that they received. But after writing this paper, I learned that their care is not good at all because of their sexual orientation. So I realized that I need to not judge somebody, and it made me reflect on the care that I provide to my patients, and is it fair across the board? So this experience taught me that I needed to use my critical thinking skills to think about my care that I provide and making sure I'm not judging someone because I don't know their full situation. And their sexual orientation should not be what I'm basing my care off of. Um, and then looking at the person holistically is going to help me to not focus on that one part and determine my care based off that. So tying it back to homelessness, I can remember that the homeless population is one of the most judged because there are people out there who are not true homeless people and are just out there trying to get money, and that's detrimental to those who are actually homeless and trying to just get the help and resources. I can also sit down and have a conversation with them again and reflect on what could cause them to be homeless and using my knowledge of the causes of homelessness and the resources within the area so I can provide them to the homeless individual. My second reflective individual is I work at a nursing home, and so the residents were not able to leave their room during COVID. So they were having to shower in their room, having to eat, not being able to leave, could have no family, no visitors. And so a lot of them were becoming depressed and isolated and just didn't feel like they really need to do anything. A lot of them would be like, well, why do I need to get dressed today? I'm not going to see anybody. So it made me reflect on the fact that I need to take into account what I do outside of the facility because the residents are my family members and I don't want to bring anything to them to get them sick. So with this experience, it helped me to inquire what the residents were going through because I wasn't trapped in a room. I wasn't eating in my room. I could leave the facility and go do what I want. I could see my family. So I was having a lot of conversations with them about that. I also learned how to look at them holistically and evaluate the situation that they're in because it is very hard. And so I had to do something to make them happy every day and just boost their confidence in themselves. And tying it back to homelessness, so the average age of a homeless individual is 31 to 50, according to the National Alliance to End Homelessness. So I can use this knowledge and remember that they may not know how to access the resources to receive COVID-19 vaccinations or COVID care or anything like non-COVID related, healthcare even. And then I can use the social sciences way of thinking and remembering that they may be feeling lonely and depressed all the time, not just during this COVID period. So I need to take that into consideration as well. So my change agent experience is I volunteered at the Timberlake Outreach Center through the Open Door mission. And while I was here, I helped like hand out food and set up and for the day. And so I was able to interact with a lot of different people, and a lot of people came through the line and they were like, they would hand me their card with how many family members they had, and then I could give them a certain amount based on this chart. So a lot of them would come through and be like, I just want one more can, and I'd be like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Like, I have to do what I was told. So I finally asked management when they came around, and he said sometimes he does give them a can, but it was so hard for me to tell them no, and made me think about what like I would be doing if I had to come through this line. So this experience was able to help me develop cultural competence because I had to interact with many different races, and there was a lot of communication barriers there too. I was able to be a positive person because these people looked depressed coming through the line, and I just wanted to boost their confidence for the day and make them feel like I'm not judging them for coming here, and I'm glad they're here because I'm glad you're getting your resources. And then I also realized I can't take what I have for granted. I don't have to come through a line to get my necessities for the month. So it made me reflect on myself again. Tying it back to homelessness, so obviously the homeless population is of lower income and living in poverty. So I realized that they may need to obtain their necessities from the shelter. So I can become a volunteer at the shelter, and I know they're always looking for someone to help out. And if I do volunteer at multiple shelters, then I can use the knowledge of the areas they specialize in to help the homeless individuals receive help and get the right assistance. And then my change agent number 2 experience is residents were not eating at a decent time on the weekends because there wasn't enough staff on the floor to help feed. So often they wouldn't eat till late. So I went to my supervisor and I said, hey, what if we just hired somebody for meals? And then that way the residents could eat at a decent time. And she said that was a great idea. So we tried it, and you could see the change in the residents. They were super happy they were eating at a decent time and while their food was hot. And so it was a good situation. So this experience taught me that I was able to have a voice for my residents because they can't talk for themselves. And I was able to initiate a change in how the residents are getting fed. I also realized that I needed to analyze the situation, come up with a solution before I went to her, so that way it looked like I had thought about it and had an idea about what we could do to help the situation. And I also realized that it's important to access the resources that are available to me because it's going to make the most difference. And then tying it back to homelessness, so there's a waitlist of 11.5 years to get into a public housing unit, according to the Landscape 2021. So I realized there's not enough shelters in the area. So I could be the spokesperson for the homeless population and helping the city to realize that there needs to be more shelters and more resources available because the number of homeless individuals is growing. And so I need to step up and make this change and do what it takes to help get the shelters started and get more resources available so that everyone has access to them and people aren't having to live on the streets due to the shelters being full. So in conclusion, I've grown a lot in my educated citizen goals throughout my time here at Nebraska Methodist College. I've had a lot of opportunities to become a more rounded educated citizen through clinical and all the volunteer opportunities. I've been able to interact with a lot of people and learn a lot of experiences that are going to help me in the future. So as I interact with more patients and get more experience, I know these opportunities will just keep coming back and helping me to become a better nurse and eventually become more confident in myself and my skills and being able to help the most people. Here's my references.